Yeah, absolutely. And so now we're going to be moving on to match 2 of the night. We are going to be moving on into Crushed Soda versus Nightmare. So, Brush, what are your initial thoughts about this set?
Look, I mean, we have the numbers to talk about, and I really enjoy taking a look at how Kyo has been doing here as a player, and also the whole team and what their playstyle has been. We just came from Starburst, a team that has been playing coordinated attacks together. Really, their assist counter telling the story there. But here, it's all about how Kyo has been able to play a skirmisher frontline weapon, be able to go in, take some deaths, take some what does not look like the typical Kyo Slayer gameplay we see, and have his teammates stand there, back him up, and wait for the opportunity to go in. That means that they're averaging a high kills per minute. That means their deaths per minute is honestly pretty low in the grand scheme of things. They're able to push ahead, push through, find the winning opportunity. That's all because of Kyo's frontline leadership.
Yeah, when you look at the number of deaths that Crushed Soda is getting, you may be surprised. It's Kyo that's leading the pack in that stat. Kyo has 37 kills to 43 deaths, so technically operating in the red there, but Crushed Soda is still dominating their set against 0 deaths last week because everybody else is taking advantage of that leadership role that Kyo has kind of played into. I've mentioned this before in the past, how Kyo is the LeBron James of competitive Splatoon. You just put this player on a roster with anybody, and all 3 of the other players get elevated up. Wave has been dominating with the amount of specials and paints they've been putting down. Goss has been cleaning up with a lot of kills while keeping their deaths low. And Thunder's been doing pretty much everything else across the board. A lot of kills, a lot of paint put down as well. So that's just been the story of Crushed Soda. By the way, even more interesting, Kyo currently is, after week 1, number 2 in total of deaths that they had. The only player who died more than Kyo was Orion, who was using the feeding Tetras in the set that they actually played against each other with. Or actually, no, Orion on Graveyard Shift. So that's the interesting kind of dynamic that they've had change up, and they're still getting the kind of results that they've been used to just seeing out of these kinds of players.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brush, what are your thoughts about what's going on with the comparison between Joe and Kyo?
Yeah, I mean, Joe's weapon pool is that shooter gameplay. It's something that we see in high level, almost every single person out there. Kyo, though, on the other hand, a typical bucket machine player, we're seeing them move to those Platana Wiper, move to those Wiper weapons in this game, and they've been able to show it works. While it's still around that 17% we saw earlier on stream, it's working well, and it's playing into his skirmisher style.
Yeah, for sure. And now, in regards to teams, what are your thoughts about how Nightmare is approaching this league, Popgun?
So Nightmare is the freshman in the new kid on the block on campus. And I get the sense, just by how some of these other top level teams are looking at Nightmare as more of the, you guys haven't really earned your stripes yet. Yeah, there's some members that are on InkTV's panel that have bought into Nightmare being a top level team. But these other teams, the Jackpots, the Starburst, the Crushed Sodas, the Alliance Rogue, are saying, who are you exactly? So it's up to Nightmare to finally make a name for themselves. And they got all the opportunities in the world to do that in this league. The question is, can they rise up to the challenge? They did a great job in both of the qualifying matches or tournaments leading into this one, but so far they're set against Jackpot, very underwhelming, but another opportunity here for them to make a good name for themselves.
And Brush, what kind of things do you think we would need to see Nightmare do to take this set?
Look, Kyo is playing that skirmisher. It's my favorite stat here. All they have to do, as if you're Nightmare, is sit back, find Kyo on the off angle, and get him down. If you can win that 4v1 on a flank, you're in a 4v3 situation, and you can snowball right down the center aisle of the map. But you have to find Kyo. You have to find that flank. I mean, we're talking about Kyo's leadership as a player, as a teammate. If you're getting that captain down, you're going to start to flounder. Even if you're the top level, even if you're Crushed Soda.
Yeah, and what do you think about what the other players of Crushed Soda are doing in order to enable Kyo and play off of Kyo, Popgun?
They're putting down the paint, they're being patient, and they're taking the fights that the opponent is giving to them. They're not looking to create too many things on their own. They're not looking to make mistakes that are going to cost their team to lose. They're playing very fundamentally sound within their own roles of how they take care of things. That's not to say Kyo is carrying by any stretch of the imagination. It's just everybody's doing exactly what they need to do to make that team work. And I agree with Brush. It starts with taking care of Kyo. But if you get Kyo down and you have the man advantage 4v3, Nightmare doesn't need to hesitate. They need to move quickly to get into the spots they need to do to start trying to force everybody else back. And they've shown in the qualifying matches, they've shown to have a lot of speed against Full Send, against other teams they were playing against, to able to find themselves into this league. They show they have the speed. They just have to show it here tonight.
Yeah, and we actually have a quick spotlight video to show on Crush Soda, and so we will be showing you that.
Yeah, the trip strikes, everything is displaced in the back of the Penguin! One more left alive, and Crush Soda is the first team to qualify for the league in qualifier number 2.
I got no drip in my pocket. Maybe I already lost it. Don't got enough to go cop it. I'm about to take off like a rocket. Houston, we might have a problem, but that don't mean money will solve them. That don't mean money will solve them.
My name is Kyo. I'm the captain of Crush Soda, and I play the main Slayer role. I'm also the IGL for the team. I play Machine and Stamper, and I think I bring a lot of experience and mechanical skill to the team. Wave is our backline / support flex for the team, and he brings a lot of survivability, paint, and really strong objective play. Goss is the secondary Slayer for Crush Soda, and he usually plays Splash and a little bit of Machine. He's very aggressive, so I can always trust him to be in the enemy's faces and cause a lot of chaos and distraction. Thunder is our main support player, and he plays a lot of Splash. He's very mechanically skilled for a support player, so I can always trust him to win his duels and just keep us going through the game. If I had to describe Crush Soda in one word, I'd say chaotic. Like I said, we're newer, so we're not as drilled as some of the other teams, but I think that works in our favor sometimes because we can be a bit unpredictable. I think Crush Soda's biggest strength is our willingness to adapt. Most of these players are newish to top level Splatoon, and they've done a great job of just taking in the experience and learning what it's like to become a top team.
I got no drip in my pocket. Must have forgotten, or maybe I already lost it. Don't got enough to go cop it. I'm about to take off like a rocket. Houston, we might have a problem, but that don't mean money will solve them. No, that don't mean money will solve them.
Now that we've qualified for the league, I want to prove that I can bring another team up to the top echelon of Splatoon. I've done it before, and I just want to see if I can do it again. Crush Soda's going to win the InkTV Resurgence League because we're all hungry to reach the top of Splatoon. And personally, I want to prove that a casual can win it all.
Hey, sorry. Hi, yeah, we're gonna go right into the set here. Apparently they've gotten ready.
Hey everybody, apparently they're ready, and so we are ready apparently as well. The teams are getting right into it very quickly here. We're going to bring you the action here. Crush Soda versus Nightmare, Walkie, Sweet Dream, Beautiful Nightmare, all the jokes that have been made at this point, particularly by you. We should have a good set here. The analysts have done a great job, I think, of kind of noting what these teams are going to expect. But let's, I guess, talk. Maybe the teams are kind of resetting here, so we actually do have a moment to talk here, and I can slow down. Welcome, everybody, to set 2 here of the InkTV Resurgence League. My name is Ninehole Grains, joined by Walkie. We'll be bringing you the action for your second set tonight. Walkie, Sweet Dream, Beautiful Nightmare here. Nightmare's going to have a tough time in this set. We were talking some of the stats earlier here, just typing back and forth, and the way that Crush Soda has been playing their games, they're leading in almost every statistical category, and they play a similar game to what Nightmare tries to do.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing when looking at the stats for Crush Soda in particular is they've actually gotten better since the qualifier. Usually when you make it to the league and everybody is a top team at this point, your stats should decrease a little bit, but Crush Soda is actually on the rise. So if you're Nightmare, you really got to come and bring your A game if you want to take on a Titan like Crush Soda here today. But on the side of Nightmare, I mean, I think this is going to be anything but a beautiful nightmare for them. I think this is going to be a real grinded out game if they want to win this. Everybody's going to be having to click on all cylinders. It's probably going to be a little messy, but if they stick to their guns, they should be able to pull this one out against Crush Soda, who, I mean, they're still a newer team. They're still figuring things out. Yeah, it's a bunch of top players, but I think there is a little bit of wiggle room right there if you're Nightmare to kind of find those opportunities and get yourself a win.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note, too, the team that Crush Soda very nearly lost to in the qualifier, I know that was a while back here, but it was Penguin, which, you know, runs a pretty similar composition to what Nightmare tends to bring out here. So if you're up against a Kyo squad where Kyo kind of creates the engagements, everyone else plays off of it there, and they start their snowball from that position, you know, it's going to be something that has a lot of shooters that is very difficult to pin down and can play more of an active defensive role, control space around speed rather than around range and things of that nature. So there's certainly avenues for this to work out, but as you kind of noted here, it's not like you're going to have an executional advantage against some of these players on Crush Soda here. That's kind of been their hallmark, young players who are very, very strong, and Kyo kind of there as the rock that stabilizes. So I'll be interested in seeing, Walkie, you and I have talked a lot about one player in particular when it comes to this Nightmare squad, that being Joe, of course, Joby Bryant, all the fun memes from it here. Kind of a 52 gal, kind of a tri-slosher, kind of a tri-slosher Nouveau. What do you think we're going to be seeing here tonight? Because I'm worried about playing a tri-slosher into Kyo's tri-slosher if that's what they end up going on some of these maps. I almost think you can't try to mirror match what they're going to be bringing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we bring up a lot when these, you know, teams that are obviously, you know, still on that lower level of the high echelon of teams like a Nightmare, where, you know, it's hard for you to win a game against these top teams when you're kind of mirroring their comp. You try to beat them at their own game rather than playing your own, and that's something that Nightmare can't really fall into if they want to do it. I know from what we've seen in this past week one of the league, and even towards the end of qualifier number 2, it seems like Joe was kind of leaning away from that 52 gal and trying to go to some different weapons for his team. It's been a couple weeks now, so you have to wonder if Joe's been able to figure it out within the confines of the rest of the team members' composition. But if you're Nightmare, you have to just stick with what you've been doing in scrims and just hope that that leads you to steal a couple games away from Crush Soda.
Well, and speaking of stealing a couple games here, as we take a look at the map list here, of course, a Crush Soda set would start on tower control. There was no question that if they had the opportunity to decide where this set was going, it would go here. But it should be noted that the one game that Nightmare took from Starburst back in the qualifier was actually on Mako Mart tower control. So Nightmare probably feels pretty confident on, certainly they know these maps at this point, but on this mode in particular here. So again, it's that kind of talking point that we're just going to beat into the ground at this point, where Nightmare does a lot of the same things that Crush Soda does. Crush Soda just has a pedigree to them that Nightmare doesn't have, and it's through no fault of their own. They simply haven't had the reps at this level yet. So that's one of the reasons why we're excited to see them and get them set into these games.
Yeah, interesting, like you mentioned, they don't have those reps against the higher levels as much as some of their counterparts. You know, a lot of the times I'm watching them in scrims, they're playing teams that honestly aren't on the level that they need to be practicing against if they want to be able to take down a team like Crush Soda or Jackpot or the other people that are in their group here. So it definitely, I think if you're a Nightmare, you just have to grind out each week and try to figure out, you know, I would say, try and, you know, show how strong you are against these top teams where you earn that respect, and then, you know, you can practice more alongside them and then get your footing from there. Because if you're Nightmare right now, it's a long uphill battle that you're facing week after week, not only in these current games, but in your scrims throughout the week.
Yeah, it's a good point that you bring up about the scrims too, because you've made the league, but have you arrived? That's the big question. And I know the old joke around +1, especially +1 back when it was originally formed, Walkie, back when you and I were in there stealing strategies from all these players and casting over their games, was that was a resource for your training. and it wasn't easy to get in. And that's sort of the position that Nightmare finds themselves in right now, is they've gotten into the club to a certain degree, but have they really gotten in? Are they able to go up and ask a Starburst for a scrim? Are they able to ask a Crush Soda for a scrim? Because that's how you get to the next level. I'm glad you brought up that point here. And, you know, it's at a certain point, you do have to take that step, and it's not so easy.
Yeah, it's definitely a test if you're the players on Nightmare. But if you're Crush Soda, you have to be looking at the results that have been happening throughout, you know, the qualifiers or the league thus far. You know, you have to stay consistent to your game. You know that Jackpot has won their sets. They're up 2-0. You need to be able to just close this one out nice and easy if you want to get into that playoff picture with ease like they're expecting, because they're going to have to play Jackpot next week. Obviously, that could be anyone's game. So you really need to make sure that these matches that you are supposed to win on paper, you need to win 9.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And actually, since we have a little moment here, we can actually talk a little bit about the playoff picture, because there were jokes all around the schoolyard about our predictions for this week and the, so-called, what's the meme? Like so-called free thinkers whenever Starburst plays, yada, da, da, da. Look, we get it. We picked a lot of the same teams, but it's because we do expect the favored teams to take care of business in this scenario. Next week is where things are going to get really interesting and pretty dicey. So what we want to see tonight almost is, if you are a Crush Soda, kind of like Waki noted here, how do you get through this as a tune-up here? Can you win this comfortably? Can you look strong? Can you prove that you've managed to come together? Crush Soda came together as a team. They played well. Then they thought they might disband. Then they stayed together again for the league. Now suddenly they're starting to hit some momentum, putting together some good games. Now the spirits are high. How does tonight look? Do you hit a roadblock in Nightmare? Do they beat you at your own game? And then maybe you get a win, but just barely. What does next week look like? And it's a lot that they're going to have to answer over the course of this league. There's certainly high expectations on that roster, but I am very curious to see when some of these teams that are a little more evenly matched do go up against each other, where this portion of the league ends up.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit it on the head right there for Crush Soda in particular, is that, this team was going up and down in if they were going to stay together or not. But when it comes down to it at the end of the day, yes, Gauss, Thunder, and Wave, as far as top player experience goes, they're a little bit on the inexperienced side compared to Keo and some of the others throughout the league. But I think they complement him well going into this, because as they mentioned on the analyst desk and everything, Keo tends to, go in and try to create plays and possibly ends up dying quite a bit. The rest of them really stay true to their game, and they stay alive for the team. They complete their roles, and they, come out with the victories at the end of the day.
And the end of the day, beginning of the set, Tower Control starting it off with the double-double on Crush Soda side. On the other side, the tried and true Joe going with the Tri-Slosher, the vanilla variant, and we do have the flavor of the month, the Neo Splash-O-Matic. On the other side, as these teams start to dash towards the start, except for maybe Goss, who is not doing so. And, well, there's a good reason for that. Goss is no longer of this dimension.
I'm gonna just be convinced Crush Soda's the problem. Apparently, every time they play on our stream, there seems to be some type of connection issue with them. But, I mean, we're going to be getting back into this. We got a quick look at the comps for both teams. Seemed like a lot of splashes, as we were predicting, off stream a little bit. A lot of the teams are going back to those double splash comps that we saw pre-patch.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you anything you don't know about double crab, folks. Like, it's been talked ad nauseum here. It's something where everybody feels comfortable here. Of course, the kit is very strong too. And on Tower Control, absolutely no reason why you wouldn't have somebody who could ride the tower with a crab while everybody jumps back to it. You get your machines back in there, they do the fighting, the others clean up and then assist as necessary. But I think it's very interesting that Nightmare has stuck in most of their comps with the Neo Splash-O-Matic. That is a very interesting pick. I know there was the discussion about, why would you play Neo Splash if you could just play a regular Splash? I would almost never want a Neo Splash here, but I think there's a lot of validity to teams that are using that almost as a Kensa splatter shot of sorts, where you throw a bomb out, you paint a little bit around you, you try to hold your position, and then you use your triple ink strikes on the defensive side to clear tower and move people up. And especially if you are going to have Joe who's going in and trying to attack with that tri-slosher, because believe me, that's what the vanilla variant is going to do. I think that there is an argument to be made that the triple ink strike can do it a little bit better than the crab if you have the confidence and your coordination. And I think especially if you're going to have Miner, who's more of a hold position type of sloshing machine, it's something that fits that well. They're not going to be going in and creating a lot on their own. So Nightmare has stuck with this idea with Joe swapping back and forth between weapons. And so far, I don't know if it's enough to say that I'm not convinced yet, but it's clear to me that they at least have an idea behind their using it, and that has to count for something.
Yeah, I mean, Nightmare's definitely coming in with a thought process behind every single one of their picks. And I mean, with this limited map pool, that's exactly what all these teams are doing. So it really comes down to if Nightmare can, one, figure out their exact comps that they want to play on each of these modes, which they're still figuring out. We can see by the changing of weapons throughout week to week that we're seeing coming from some of their plays like Joe, as you mentioned. But then number two, they need to just stick to that game plan once they find it. And I think that'll really show, it'll really show the fruits of their labor if they really just stick with it week by week. But actually, we're getting a little bit word on the side of Crush Soda that because of the Goss DC, the Crush Soda team has elected to sit Goss for probably the remaining of this set, and they're going to be subbing in 0-9. What are your thoughts on that?
See, that's an interesting one, because if there's one thing we know about Zero, right? He likes to fight, okay? I'm not breaking any news to everybody when I say he likes to fight, but remember, we talked about what Goss's role is on the team. Goss can fight with the best of them, but he has been willing to sit back, die less, fight less, go around and paint, build up specials as necessary. We were, just a little look behind the curtain for you all, we were looking in our stat sheets to try to figure out if we made an error with some of the Crush Soda numbers, because we simply couldn't believe the amount of paint that Goss and Thunder had been consistently putting out here. And we found out, no, that's actually right. They just paint a ton. That's just how their gameplay goes. Zero is going to be playing the same sets of weapons here, so it's not that he can't do that, but will he do that? When push comes to shove, is he going to stick with that role, or is he going to go and try to create? Will it even matter? That, I think, is the question that really needs to be answered here, but this is an interesting wrinkle that we hadn't really accounted for.
Yeah, I think this honestly changes the complete dynamic of the team. As we were mentioning earlier, Goss and Thunder, Wave, people who normally sit back and let Keo kind of make those plays. Zero, very capable of making those plays, as we see him actually come in with the sloshing machine for the team. So they're going to be going with the double sloshing, double crab comp on their side. And then, as we were mentioning, on the side of Nightmare, that's pretty much standard true for what we've been seeing from them so far.
Yeah, this was a good call here. Of course, if you know that Zero wants to go ahead and fight, just put him on the weapon that was going to be doing that anyway and put it there. And if you're comfortable with Wave being back on the other machines, Thunder, of course, that's the natural weapon. So it's an idea, at least. We see Kyoto down already. Joe barely missing out on another one as we have a bit of a scrum in the middle of the map here. These teams have actually done a pretty good job of not giving up too much. You know that the members of Crush Soda are going to be back first on the respawn since they were the first one to go down. As we have Pelu going down, and again, the scrum continues.
Yeah, so far, credit to Nightmare for hanging in there on that initial push coming in from Crush Soda, but finally seems like Crush Soda is going to be able to take the advantage right here, and they have 4 specials online right now, 9. This could be the checkpoint really quickly, and if Nightmare's not quick, this could be the second one as well.
Yep, and this is their game here. They're going to fight and extend the firefight in the middle, because they know once they start their push with it, they will really start their push with 2 or 3 specials. Nightmare has done a fantastic job of holding on to this. They did lose that first checkpoint. Of course, they could have lost a lot more there. Every push now will be a little bit stronger. But when you start a push up against the opponent and have 4 specials, you're thinking a lot more than the first checkpoint here.
Yeah, not even that they only got the first checkpoint. 49 is a very beatable number on this map. So Nightmare has to be thinking that they came out of that fight right there on top. And so far, things in the middle are looking pretty even. But though Thunder's going to shut down things really quickly. Might be getting the third right there. Gets the trade with Joe. But actually, Joe gets the double trade. So that's going to be a full wipe on both teams. And Storm's the first one back into mid.
Yeah, and look at that. Everybody else from Nightmare got to jump back quickly, too. Kyo was perched at the exact right spot to take out the front runner there and really take a lot of the threat out of this push here. You can see already rotating around, not letting them know they've gone and gotten Joe, and Thunder even survived that fight. This has all gone wrong for Nightmare after a really strong position. Zero rotates over to fight. Everybody goes down. And Joe, the last one coming out of spawn. It's amazing, Walkie, just how quick this goes away when your front runner gets taken down.
Yeah, we see right now that Joe's trying to make a play happen, able to get one down on Thunder, and now Kyo pushes him back a little bit right here, and then you know where Joe is, so Joe has to figure out where he's going to go forward. Now, elects to move forward with Miner, the two tag team right here onto Zero, get that one taken down, but lose Miner in the process. That should shut down the push on Crush Soda's side as the tower's moving back into mid. Let's see if Nightmare's able to finally capitalize on some sort of push here with that inkjet coming out.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity here. Where is Kyo moving? Kyo did go down there. There had to be some assistance. Whoa, two more go down. Thunder over on the crab on the other side, and Wave, that's both crabs in the same spot. Hold on a minute, Miner might be able to get them both here. That's one down, that's two down now. Where is everybody at the middle of the map here? Joe is pushed up. They're simply waiting on their shooters to get back as Miner continues to move forward. Miner needs to back up at this point, has a great place for this Booyah Bomb as well, calling out for people to move up and assist here. Walkie, there's a chance for the lead and even more.
Yeah, they're going to get past this checkpoint with ease right here. You see Storm just throwing in some support with those Shrine Strikes. And the crabs coming out. That's 3 down on the side of Crush Soda. Lead goes over to Nightmare right now. And that's a full wipe. Joe secures the deal, picking off a Wave right there. And he's going to be moving even more forward right now, Nine.
This is unbelievable here. They're attacking all the way up here. Storm is moving forward. Thunder goes behind. It's desperation as they throw themselves at the tower. But it's not going to matter as Nightmare takes a convincing victory off of just the very first real opportunity they had at a push. And Walkie, it all started when both of those crabs went up at the same time, rolled the same way. Look, crab can do almost everything, but when both of your crabs are right next to each other on grading, you know you're not going to be able to swim away after you get out of your crab. And my oh my, did Miner and Joe make them pay for it.
Yeah, Miner and Joe definitely the MVPs of that match, just leading the push forwards constantly, able to take down each of the members on the side of Crush Soda as you see them securing that victory right there in the replay. Man, 9. Nightmare came to play right there, and you have to wonder on the side of Crush Soda, was it the sub and them not being able to adapt quick enough to maybe a little bit of a different play style with Zero compared to Gauss that cost them that game?
It was such a fight-heavy game with, it seemed like half the game featuring 4 people down at one time here. It really did seem like they had the resources, again, on the defensive side to stop that push. They had taken out a couple players. There was some people working around the tower, and you have 2 crabs at your side. The issue is that, again, when you activate both of your crabs right next to each other, it just means that if an opponent gets up there with splash damage like the Sloshing Machine and the Tri-Slosher, they're going to be able to scare the crabs enough that they're going to stop shooting. They are forced to move ever so slightly, and it's amazing how that one mistake, which it almost feels like it's never a mistake to get into crab, in that spot gave up entirely too much space. They didn't have any mobility, and that's when it all started to fall apart because they couldn't even force a trade in that scenario. It meant that they could start stacking the remaining specials from the buckets who were up front. And I mean, that's really all it takes. We know that Nightmare has mechanical skill, but would they be able to execute when the opportunities presented themselves so far? Walkie, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, let's see how things fare on Tower Control Mako. As you mentioned, this is a map that Nightmare has actually taken games off of Starburst on in the past. So Crush Soda really needs to come out here prepared for this one. If it is anything that they're saving grace, this is a much less snowbally map than we did see on Sturgeon Shipyard. Let's see how they perform out on this one.
Yep, and you see already Joe goes down there. Kyo switched over to the Tri-Slosher as well, not wanting to bother with any more machine shenanigans here. If we're going to go up and fight, we're going to do it. Kyo does go down here, and it appears that really this push is going to stop. It seems like for a moment there, they were riding the tower a little bit forward. They wanted to try to collapse on the people who Kyo was fighting, and they're not going to get a whole lot of good for that decision here. Storm's going to be able to at least stabilize on this side. Wave's going to get punishes here, but Walkie, this has been the game thus far. One side gets a punish, the other side then comes through and gets the revenge, and not a lot of momentum being built for most of these games.
Yeah, and you can see Storm kind of regretted not picking the vanilla splash in that 1v1 fight right there, where Wave was able to take advantage of the burst bombs in space perfectly, while Storm was kind of forced to go in right there. But nonetheless, things are kind of stabilizing back in mid right now. One down on the side of Crush Soda. Make that 3 down, actually, as Joe, I believe, was able to get one. A teammate got another, and now they're just trying to figure out to get this kill onto Thunder, and they do. They might be able to snowball this next checkpoint pretty quickly right here if someone just hops on, and yes, Storm's going to do that. No, somebody's right behind him as well, but that's quickly dealt with by a teammate. Tri-strikes come out, and 9. This is looking like the same game once again.
I mean, this looks like a team, Walkie. They have been maneuvering the right specials and the right players around to attack the defensive positions ahead of time. This is incredible coordination. Miner now moving up here and isn't even going to go and follow up. Understands that, hey, I need to stay alive right here so that nobody can come down on this side. My teammates will carry on the other side here. If they can get through this checkpoint, I mean, this is almost always game at this level. You don't see many pushes go both ways. They do. They have another grab to ward off Wave on that side. They're going to fire a little further ahead of the tower there to try to get a few more points. Milwaukee to 26 with mid control, with Storm here, with the special as well, can probably set up on some side. And again, the coordination has been all for Nightmare here.
Yeah, you see them trying to go after Joe on that left side right there. Going to be able to take them down. That's the start of what Crush Soda needed to get themselves back into this game right here. Sakio has that Soda activated on him. Gotta wonder if they're going to go in and try to make something happen. Soda runs out. Checkpoint not taken care of just yet, and Joe actually likes to go straight for Thunder into a trade. Is that going to slow things down right here? Keo and the rest of the team needs to get a couple picks, and they do manage to find one. Also call out Pelu on this side. They should be able to get this checkpoint and move on forward here.
Yep, and that's huge too because nobody went down there. We'll see Zero opted not to swing around the back corner. Instead, opted to try to shark over the top there. So that means that they're going to be able to get a defense set up on their side of glass. And it looks like that might be just enough alongside the triple ink strike there. Again, not too many of them went down, but you can see now some specials coming out of Nightmare. They're actually pushed up here in a decent defensive position here. They're going to be able to fight their way out instead of hoping for a mistake. 3 go down though, so it does appear that maybe they overextended ever so slightly, but you can see, Walkie, it took 3 specials from Crush Soda just to ward that off. They're going to have to build up again and try again, and with just 90 seconds left in the game, they're only going to get a couple more shots at it.
Yeah, nice on Pelu to get that pick onto Keo. Things could have gotten catastrophic right there if they weren't able to pick that up cleanly. Now Crush Soda trying to approach the second checkpoint. You see the Crab Tank coming out to try and clear some of the way. Tri-strikes come back in return right here, and it seems like it's just going to come down to the special usage right here as Thunder's Crab is actually taken down right away. Are they going to be able to get this checkpoint? 1 second away, but everyone's forcing them off the tower. Thunder wisely elects to go pick up that player right there, and so might be able to keep this push alive right here. Yeah, they weren't able to secure that checkpoint. They've got the man advantage right now with the jumps coming in from Keo.
Yeah, but Nightmare holding on to that, understanding that they had to keep that checkpoint no matter what. That's going to buy them at least another 7 or 8 seconds on the defensive side. Kill goes in to try to dive. They know where it's coming from, and Kill actually did get the Soda. Keep an eye on that. That may matter a lot because that means that Kill will come back in. He did, but it looks like the rest of the members went down too quickly for it to matter. And again, Walkie, just 30 seconds left. Nightmare has warded them off once again. They're fighting through. Joe dives on top of the Crab, not able to close it out. That Crab got nothing.
Yeah, they need to stay composed on the side of Nightmare, and that seems to be exactly what they're doing. You see the 2 specials online from Storm and Miner. Those are specials that will be able to stop that tower pretty handily. Keo needs to recognize that and go in. Maybe does it a little bit too late. Looking for the pick on Storm right there, able to get one, but actually, I think the Tri-strikes and Booyah forced them off the tower long enough for one of the players on the side of Nightmare to step on.
And folks, if you had on your bingo sheet that Nightmare would take the tower control set 2-0, congratulations, you are braver than I. I mean, Walkie, we watched it there. I'm running out of words here. We got to send this back to our analysts here. But before we do, again, take a look at this replay. As Walkie noted at the very end, Kyo understood, have to rush up, have to go ahead and take these members out. Did clear one, and we thought that that might have been the one that was diving tower. It appears that there was one other who was just in front, who hopped on with just seconds left. What a game, what a set. Let's throw it over to our analyst to make sense of this madness.
Hi again. So, what an unexpected set. Popgun, what are your thoughts about what Nightmare was doing so efficiently there?
Hey, that set was actually entertaining. I didn't fall asleep in that one. Here's the thing. I get the sense that was Nightmare's best mode in particular. That's why they picked that one. They looked really impressive playing in tower control during the qualifiers that they were going up against. That doesn't say that Crush Soda isn't good on tower control as well, but if you're Nightmare, that's probably the best opportunity for you to get something going. Here's the problem, though, that Crush Soda has to face. Are they the better team on paper still? Yes, 100%. The problem now is you've given Nightmare hope, and that's the worst thing you can do when you're playing against a team that's such a heavy underdog, is to make them believe that they can actually win the game now. Nightmare going up 2-0, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, they're going to screw this up. When they got that lead on Mako Mart, okay, they're going to fumble this away. You saw them burn some specials in some awkward spots, but they closed it out perfectly. They got the Ink Strike and the Booyah Bomb in the last 30 seconds. They waited. They didn't make too many mistakes to close that one out, but man, Crush Soda losing that set in the fashion that they did might have given Nightmare too much hope and maybe a little bit too much belief that they can actually close out this set here. That's the problem they're going to have to deal with over the next potentially 2 more sets, if it even goes that far.
Yeah. And Brush, what were you seeing out of special usages there?
Look, I mean, we were laughing about it on our end. At the very end, Kyo popped that Tacticooler for himself to try to make that hero play. And while we saw a lot of these pops, I mean, we saw some panic crabs come out that game, we saw a lot of discombobulation on the special front. And that is something that if Crush Soda is going to be able to bounce back and take these next 2 best of 3s, they're going to have to start coordinating those specials and playing off of one another. They need to be popping a crab, taking space with it, in the case of tower control, getting on that tower, and then moving ahead of it, playing off of one another, not just trying to make the hero play.
And Popgun, what do you think about that Tri-Slosher that we kept seeing coming out? We kept seeing Joe on that vanilla Tri-Slosher.
I thought it was interesting using the Inkjet version of it in that game 1, but Inkjet's just gotten such a nice buff recently that it makes sense. And Joe's Inkjets really paid dividends towards the end of that game 1, where they're able to pop it and start taking the fights into the actual spawn of Crush Soda there. Going back to the other one, I believe they used in the game 2, or maybe that was just Kyo using the Neo Tri-Slosher Nouveau in game 2. But yeah, just an impressive run across the board there for Nightmare. Are they going to keep it up going into a different mode now? I believe the next mode is going to be Rainmaker. That's the question that we're going to have to answer. I'm just feeling that Crush Soda gets a little bit more back into this one on that mode in particular. Another talking point from this set, though, Goss was the player that was supposed to be going in there. Zero's being subbed in, and you gotta imagine a player of Zero's caliber, it's not like they just found some bum off the street. It's the king of North America that's subbing in for you. So that's maybe just like a little bit of rust, like, oh, I wasn't expecting to come in and play. Maybe that's caught Crush Soda at a little bit of a slower foot. I don't know.
Yeah, and we are going to be switching back over to our casters. See you back in a bit.
Thank you to our lovely analyst there for breaking that down. And Walkie, they did bring up a really great point. I believe it was Brush who used the word discombobulated. And, you know, as a fan of the very first Sherlock Holmes movie, I do love the word discombobulated. It's such a fun one. But I think that's entirely what we were seeing in tower control. You would see the spots that Nightmare would go to set up their defenses. They understood where their specials had to go to create those opportunities for themselves. But now, with Rainmaker here, it gets a little more scrambly. You might not have the same opportunity to set up that same type of static defense. I'm curious what your thoughts on how Crush Soda can bounce back.
I think the change to Rainmaker could definitely be in Crush Soda's favor. Obviously, as you were mentioning, this could be a little bit more scrambly, a little bit more chaotic. And actually, when I interviewed Keo for his team Spotlight, that was the word that he used to describe his team, chaotic. So they love modes like this where they can get in the enemy's face. And I think with the addition of Zero, yeah, it might have not been the greatest for a little slower mode. But when we get to Rainmaker, I think this is where Zero can really shine, get in the face of the enemy team. But on the other side, I think they still need to keep an eye out for Joe, who's going to be trying to do the same thing right back to him.
Yeah, and they could not cleanly win a fight against Joe in that last set. How many times do we say, and Joe forces a trade, and Joe gets a trade, and Joe gets two? And it just seemed like that was the story of the entire piece here. Joe is more than happy to pick a priority target, swim, go, take out that target, and that's it. That is a-okay from what Joe's perspective is. But again, now that it is a faster mode here, will Joe stay with the Tri-Slosher, go to another weapon, or will the play style change up a little bit? Will it be a little bit less of a heat-seeking missile and more of a shark move up and then try to jump out here? Because if your front runner goes down in Rainmaker, that often means the push is just done at that point. There are too many long-range specials at this point, and we have to imagine that Crush Soda will be sticking with a crab or two. I think Hagglefish will be a great litmus test for that. Museum d'Alfonsino, of course, we have talked much about how that game tends to play. Teams scramble it about in the mid, and then once the first checkpoint goes down, it's an arms race to get to the 20 and the 30. And undertow spillway, who is going to get past the uninkable surface? It seems like darn near every single game, somebody is able to do it. A fantastic trio of maps here as these teams get set.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you're Crush Soda, I think their best map might actually be that last one where they can pull out those double bucket comps coming in from Zero and Keo respectively. And so they need to make sure that they at least put themselves on the board here during game one. And hopefully, if you're a Crush Soda fan, finish it out in game two. But if not, then they can, force that game three, where I think they have the slight advantage composition-wise against Nightmare.
Yeah, I'll be interested in seeing if they keep Zero on the sloshing machine. We're never going to criticize the team for bringing a sloshing machine of all weapons into a fight, but Zero, of course, plays the shooters at a very high level as well, and Wave typically has been the player for Crush Soda that flexes over to that bucket whenever necessary. So I'm curious if they just think that, hey, if you're going to go in and fight, just go ahead and be the machine player, Zero, because that's what we need. We need our machine player to go and fight to a certain extent. Or if they're going to try to change it up, move Zero back over to a shooter and have Wave switch over to one of the other weapons. We can pretty reliably guess what couple of weapons Kyo is going to play, and I would be absolutely stunned if Thunder switched off the Splash-O-Matic. I am maybe not curious as much as I am wondering if the Neo Splash-O-Matic is going to stay out here from Storm, though. You talked a little bit about Storm on that Neo Splash-O-Matic. We talked about it in the context of tower control. So I'll be interested to see where that goes. Sorry, we just got a ping here. The big red one came up. Goss is back. Goss is back. So all of our speculation in the last 30 seconds of me talking to you folks, ignore every bit of it. Talk about the Neo Splash-O-Matic here, Walkie, because clearly I've got nothing better to say.
Yeah, if I'm Storm in particular, you were mentioning it, on a Rainmaker, it's definitely a different game. You're not going to be able to stop an objective as easily with those tri-strikes as you can on tower control. So I think Storm possibly needs to think about switching things up here and possibly just going with, the double crab. That's the tried and true. Stick with Pelu and pull off those double crabs for your teammates and allow the opportunities and the space created by those crabs for Joe to move in and finish up those picks for you.
Yeah, and finishing them up is going to be the big note here. Again, if these players are able to scramble around, it's going to get nasty and chaotic. Folks, we are moving on here to Rainmaker. Hagglefish Market, you know it, you love it. And let's take a look at what the teams are bringing out. Kyo is switching over to the Wiper now that Goss can switch back over to the machine. And Joe is going to be bringing out the 52 gal. So, Walkie, we wondered, we hoped, we prayed, and here it is. A beloved weapon by some people in the Splatoon community.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be up to Joe to push the tempo with that 52 gal. You know, he loves to shark with that weapon, loves to get up in your face. Let's see if he's going to be able to do it. So far, it seems like Crush Soda is going to be able to claim most of the middle of the map relative ease before the specials come back in on the side of a Nightmare right here. They clear out mid right now, but so far nobody's even fought here, Nine. They're just throwing ink back and forth.
No, it's really fun to see how Nightmare has developed their own brand of Splatoon and how they play it, almost as in an old school Splat Zone style. In almost every mode, they will willingly let you take the middle of the map, or at least a little further up on the map at the start, and try to counter special you, get some wins in that regard, and force good trades. They've taken 2 down now, so they may have finally been patient enough. They went fishing and they may have caught someone. Wave is way off to the side. This first checkpoint is going to fall without a hint of resistance. What in the world did Nightmare do from this week to last week? They look like a completely different team, and they're not done yet.
Yeah, now we got Joe trying to move on forward. Is the Crab going to be able to take him down? No, it's not. Is Joe actually going to be able to get down Thunder? Gets the nice placement on that splash wall. Teammate uses the splash wall to move up and get a couple extra points. But you gotta wonder, was that the right decision? Could they have waited and slow that one out a little bit longer to get a couple points? It seems like this push is gonna end at 30. Joe, the last remaining member on the side of Nightmare, goes down, and now Goss and Keo are just gonna move on forward and create as much havoc in the spawn of Nightmare so that they can get this checkpoint with ease.
Yeah, you see Kyo takes a couple shots there and then opts to back up here. When are they going to use this Ultra Stamp, and what are they going to throw it at? They actually get the checkpoint a little bit easier than I thought they would, so clearly Nightmare happy to let that one go. Joe may have overextended just a touch. It appears that there are some defensive resources, but one of those just got snuffed out, and now Goss is moving up. Storm needs to come up big in this position here to try to hold and take a couple of people out. That could be a big trade because now Kyo has come up and attacked on that side. They have pivoted all the other way around and get the lead at 29. It's just Joe and Thunder. Thunder will win that fight as the others jump in. The threat is not yet done. The Rainmaker Shield's going to close a couple out there. They're still going to fight it out around the Rainmaker, and with just Kyo left to jump in, it's going to swim in instead. All of that to get to 29. A 1-point lead is still a lead, my friend.
Still a lead, but it's by no means a safe one right here. Nightmare definitely looking to return the favor right back onto Crush Soda. They seem to have called out Joe, though. Joe's in a pretty bad position. Goes down to some wisely placed shots by Thunder right there. And now that's going to be the sign for them to go on in. You see the Crab Tech coming out. Thunder trying to create some space with the burst bombs and allow Keo to possibly move back and forward. But actually, on the other side, Nightmare's going to respond with a couple Booyah bombs and some other specials to force them back and force the fight on Crush Soda's side of the map.
And stop me if you've heard this one. Joe gets the trade here to, again, break up a little bit of that defensive position. However, a wisely placed special from Kyo was able to ward the other members off there, so there was no threat coming from the opening that Joe created. Now Thunder moves through, trades off with Storm as we enter the final 90 seconds here of this game. A Crab is firing at Wave here and will force Wave all the way back. We saw this a little bit earlier here. This is a really awkward spot for the Rainmaker to be because of the grading here. You have the opportunity to push that up. Thunder needs to be careful not to get picked out by Miner, and Miner cleared that one there. Got the first shot and a second shot to do it. This is all of mid, and it does appear Walking Nightmare is going to let this one reset. They're going to try to move Joe up and get geared for one last push here, and they don't know that he's here yet.
Yeah, they don't know that Joe's sharking here on this right side. Might be able to get Thunder, and they do. That's one. Now the call out's made. Joe is spotted, but those first ones aren't going to be able to do too much damage. Joe gets the pick onto Keo as well. I think it's the help of a teammate right there. But Joe's just going to be going absolutely in right now onto this one. Gets another right now, looking for even more as his team pushes on forward and gets the lead. Great plays from Joe to create a lot of space, but it's not over just yet. They might get the... They don't get the dunk. 9 is still going on right now. Goss able to clear one of the members, and I believe that's everybody on the side of Nightmare going down. But 9, they pushed it all the way to 1. I said 29 wasn't safe. I mean, I didn't know they were going to do that, though.
No, and look who's already coming around on the flank once again. Joe is on the complete other side of the map, coming right behind, throw the wall there, but they got everybody to turn around, and now Miner has an opportunity to move up as well. That's one person already down. Look at how caught out Wave is. You know that the Crab's going to get a couple more shots, and it's not going to matter because Joe moves through and finishes the meal on that side. Desperately trying to pop. Goss jumps right into the waiting arms of who else? It's Joe!
Fantastic performance from Joe and the players on the side of Nightmare. You gotta love that they stay composed, you know, even when Crush Soda took that lead. And honestly, we were in Nightmare's base for about 1.5 to 2 minutes of the game right there, but Nightmare fought their way back into that one. And I think it all really turned when you mentioned it right there. Thunder thought they were safe to kind of paint around, and Miner just rushed them straight ahead, and that kind of spiraled into all the members on the side of Nightmare building up their specials and getting into the base of Crush Soda.
Yeah, and I mean, the big move up and Shark there by Joe, the patience there. Joe reminds me a lot of another shooter player that I have great admiration for back in the day, the way that Taylor of Deep Blues and Hive, the way that in the chaos he would stop moving and he would slowly nudge up to create these fights with really good positions here. It's not a quality that I see a lot of players really put an emphasis on in their gameplay, and the way that Joe moved up exactly as far as necessary to hide on both sides of where that paint was to get the flank, and then, as you noted there, for Miner to understand that situation and move up and attack as well. It's incredible the way that this team is playing off of individual plays and how quickly they're moving, Walkie. That's always what we say. When do the high-level teams become the top-level teams? It's when they get faster, when they see the opening and immediately act upon it here. That's what Nightmare has done, whether it's on the defensive side or on the attacking side. They have reached another level tonight.
Yeah, they've been able to execute on all the misplays that Crush Soda has been making throughout the day. And like you mentioned, that's kind of separates you from being just a high-level team to being a top-level team. And you got to love it if you're a Nightmare fan, as they're making progress week after week, just getting better and better together as a team. And honestly, I don't think this is the end for them now on the side of Crush Soda. They're one game away from losing this set as we head into game number 2 on this Rainmaker set.
Crush Soda's last stand here at the Museum d'Alfonsino. What a place to make your final stand. They're going back to the double-double. Kyo has played 3 different weapons here, and Joe now is going over to the Wiper. This was not something we knew was in the stable of weapons. So for Joe to be able to switch to 3 weapons of his own over the course of this set speaks not only to his skill, but to his versatility.
Yeah, let's see. All members on both teams just trying to feel out mid and look for their opportunity to move on forward. Joe spotted on the left side of this map right here, called out by a couple burst bombs, but so far nobody's really wanted to just dive in onto Joe and finish them up as a team. Thunder on the right side here, able to actually distract them long enough for, I believe, a teammate to come in. I don't know exactly who that was. Might have been Kyo right there with the sloshing machine, but nonetheless, Crush Soda starting this one off really strong, might be able to turn things around now.
Yeah, rare misstep from Nightmare as they've done it here. I'm not really sure that 2 people firing up at that crab on that side was necessary. You gave away your position, and at best case scenario, you were just going to slow down Wave's drop here. Of course, they very quickly find their footing, as they have in almost all of these games. Seems like they always give up something at the start and then take a whole lot in return. 38, not too shabby here. Oftentimes, it becomes a matter of how quickly you can break this first checkpoint. Members of Crush Soda are up on the defensive side. Joe is, of course, sharking. Kyo went way in to try to make a play happen there. And well, there you go. That's how quickly they can break that first checkpoint.
Yeah, Kyo definitely a little bit overextended. Didn't even really acknowledge the crab in the middle of the map. Something that players definitely don't do too often right there. But actually, Thunder's going to be jumping that one off of their plat, maybe by a little bit of extra time. But on the side of Nightmare, Joe's just going to go in, able to take down Kyo. They're able to get the lead as well rather quickly right there. The crabs come out. Joe's still alive. Nightmare Night might be finished yet.
No, there you can see Thunder moving up and fighting, and Joe is already there. Kyo going to grab the Rainmaker. That's not something you say very often here. He's simply trying to get it out again into another position there to try to move somebody up and attack. It doesn't look like Goss was able to capitalize on it, though, and there's still people fighting in the other base there. A pick on the Pelu means that Storm's going to have a little harder of a time and does finally close it out here. So a 1-for-1, but again, the fight is still on the plat of Crush Soda. They have not found their footing since the beginning of this game block.
Yeah, it just seems like they aren't really coordinated on most of the time that they're going into these fights. But other than that beginning against when they use that crab, that's the only time we've really seen teammates play off of each other so far. Let's see if they're able to do it here as Kyo approaches the plat on the side of Nightmare right here. Just going to be sharking, waiting for them to do something. Misses the second shot onto that player that they got the direct on, and that's going to cost them. His field's going to go down. Now they're going to rush Thunder and the Rainmaker. Things can spiral out of hand pretty quickly once again.
Yep, and I mean, this is all started there. Storm rushes forward and does get taken down there, but Storm was the player that shot was on there earlier. If that closes out, there's no telling what might have happened on the back half of that push, but now again, they're going to move forward and try to fight. Kyo does win a very crucial 1v1 against Pelu there, because now they're going to be able to collapse onto Joe with the assistance. Who is going to grab the Rainmaker? Is anybody going to grab the Rainmaker there? They do finally grab it here. Letting it reset would have been a huge slowdown for the momentum that they had gotten built. But now how are you going to attack? They wait for Joe to jump down. You desperately need to clear this Platana Wiper, and finally do. With only the loss of Kyo, you have to think they're probably going to wait for him to jump back in as they try to get Thunder set up here. Again, desperately trying to pay for his grab. They're waiting and trying to set up the best scenario, but all that while, Walkie, they gave so much time to Nightmare, and at the end of it all, Thunder takes a dip into the drink.
Yeah, I don't know what Thunder was trying to do there. Went to the middle to paint for their crab, then decides that it's taking too long and rotates over. But actually, if they would have just waited, every member on Crush Soda would have had their specials, while Nightmare had none. So they need to be a little bit more patient right there. And you got to think that the nerves are getting to them as they're facing elimination here with 1 minute left in this game. Miner's going to be able to take down Gauss right there. Miner staying tried and true to what they do best, staying alive and spacing out the enemy, making sure that they can't approach their plat at all. Once again, just putting on a show right here as they're able to get one and get the jump out.
Just incredible class right there by Miner. You and I are huge Miner fans because of that exact play right there. He just seems to make the right play at the right time, get a hit, then jump out. But with Joe down now, there is an opportunity here. Wave needs to not go down to any of this chip damage. Has to be close.
They got
Lucky, that's 3 down already here. They're moving forward and saying, can they close out Joe? That's a wipeout. That will be the lead, and pulling victory from the jaws of defeat. Crush Soda is not done yet.
Crush Soda just absolutely responded when they needed to, and that's exactly what top teams do. When their backs are against the wall, they come out and make the plays necessary to survive. And you gotta love the way Wave was playing with the Rainmaker. You saw them force out that Booyah Bomb by pretending to go forward, dip right back, and then that forced all the specials out on the side of Nightmare, allowed their teammates to clean them all up and get their way straight to the goal right there. So great plays with the Rainmaker coming in from Wave. Yeah, they didn't get the kills necessary, but they made the right play to get their teammates into position where they didn't have to deal with the specials themselves.
Yeah, and you could not have said it better in that position. One of the things that we did not get to see because of the smoke screen of all those range specials is where the other members of Crush Soda were when they were moving up and attacking. We love a good range special here, folks. You can chuck your Booyah Bomb and your triple ink strikes halfway across the map. But if you're throwing them that far, you are not painting what is directly in front of you. And Crush Soda took that exact opportunity to move up and attack the way they did. And they closed out Joe quickly as well. Believe me, there are many instances there where you let that one player sneak through, take out your Rainmaker. You have 3 people spawning, and anybody can happen, or anything can happen rather, but they did what they needed. And Walkie, we now move on to game 3 on the map that you said that you think will favor Crush Soda. So this will be really interesting to see if they can truly pull this one back.
Yeah, I think that Crush Soda, they're more used to the double bucket comp that we're probably honestly going to be seeing from Nightmare as well, but it's something that they've just become adjusted to in this past week or so. We expect Joe to, honestly, I would predict that he's going to be bringing out a Tri-Slosher for themselves onto this one, possibly the Inkjet variation, so that when the team is pushing, he can get up onto the plat with that Inkjet and create some havoc for their team. So I think both teams may come out with a similar comp-wise, but as we mentioned previously at the beginning of the cast here, you know, sometimes when you're facing a top-level team, you don't want to fall into a mirror match. You want to stick to your game.
Folks, here it is. Get excited. We could have our first major upset of the InkTV League right here. Nightmare just 1 game away from doing it. On the other side, some new life finally for Crush Soda. Taking a look at these teams as they get launched into it. Walkie, what do you see?
Yeah, actually, Joe's going to elect to go with the 52 gal on this map. So, I mean, that's going to help them with the wall as they're moving forward onto the uninkable that you mentioned is so crucial on this map. It's just going to be all about getting into that position early and not allowing Crush Soda to space you out with their bucket comp here. Right now, both teams feeling each other out. Joe's going to try to get them down with that crab stick. Let's go into a 1v2 situation, possibly a little bit too antsy on the side of Joe right there. They're going to get taken down, but actually on the other side, I believe it was Goss who gets taken down, so they're going to slow things down for a minute right now as both these teams just try to regroup and feel each other out, see who's going to pick up this Rainmaker first.
Yeah, and Miner with the forced sloshing machine dilemma of you directed both of the players, but you couldn't get the second shot onto either of them there. There were two big picks there that got away there, and now Kyo is going to make them pay here. Miner's going to have a rough landing. They actually come back and protect there, but Wave comes back as well, and now we're starting to see some of that coordination we were hoping to see, Walkie. Wave immediately played off of where Kyo's dive was. Two players go down. The first checkpoint falls as a result, and now Undertow Spillway Rainmaker really starts to show its fangs here. Are you going to continue to push it on this side? Will you rotate over once you get control? The fighting has suddenly gone all the way up Crush Soda. They'll move it forward 35. They'll pay dearly for it, but Wave is going to be back in a decent position to try to defend here. They should have some specials and a great opening here from Crush Soda, who's truly found their stride.
Yeah, you saw that Goss was trying to make a play on the other side of the map right there, but I think called out that they were taken down, and so Kyo just decided, let me rush this side that we're already on, get as many points as we possibly can right there. And 35 is decent. You just need to make sure that the enemy team doesn't make the jump onto the uninkable ramp going into your spawn, and you'll probably keep that lead right here. Nice plays coming out from Thunder to win the 1v1 onto Joe. Are they going to be able to win the 1v1 onto Pelu as well, but no backs up? Allows the rest of the team to come on in here. Unfortunately, Goss is going to get taken down by what appears to be some type of bomb right there. That might slow down Crush Soda, but as I say that, they're going to throw the tacticooler. Kyo's going to get themselves started right here, moving on forward.
Yeah, some nice rotations here on the attack. I can't believe he didn't find Joe. Some very nice footwork there to survive it, and that may be crucial here because everybody else is down here. They have to know Joe's general direction, and now Joe is so far behind, he's going to just have to fight whoever he can there, and was actually able to get one of them as the other two dove forward there to try to get a couple more points. So again, now the scrum and the scrappiness and the chaos that we had come to expect here from this Crush Soda roster, it's been all them here for a while. But Nightmare, again, folks, keeping this relatively close. If they can get past that first checkpoint, we see most of these games end in the teens, Walkie.
Yeah, definitely. If you're Crush Soda, you tried to push onto that right side multiple times. Didn't really work out. Yeah, you were kind of forced there because Joe was guarding the left, but on their next push, I want to see them try to bring this one left, and I think that's what they're going to do with Goss clearing that up. They are able to get Joe as well. This left side is completely clear for Goss and Kyo to do some havoc with those buckets onto that ranged elevation that the enemy team is going to be coming in from right here. Wave's just going to let you push on forward. That should be a couple extra points. Only 4 extra points right there, so not the perfect jump that they wanted. Is it going to be enough here with only 1 minute and 30 seconds is the real question, though.
And Thunder does manage to get away. Keep that in mind, folks. 90 seconds left in the game, and that could be a huge crab. Because, again, we know that if Nightmare is going to come back in this game, they're going to have to dunk it and then get more points. Well, okay, if Kyo takes out 2 of you here, this push is done before it even starts. But we say that because that's another 10 or so seconds that you're going to have to account for. Joe closes this one out, and I spoke too soon because the other members took care of business to give this push another fighting chance here. Keep an eye where the crabs. It was Thunder who stopped the last push there, single-handedly with the crab. This time it's Wave getting in on the action as Miner moves up here to try and close out this player. It is once again Thunder and Wave. It's just those two, which means the buckets are probably coming around on flanks. Where will they come from? Where is the attack? The fight took too long, so another crab is here. 40 seconds left on the clock. A lot of control around the Rainmaker and Walkie. They may opt to just continue to fight this out and not worry about popping it.
Yeah, 30 seconds remaining, and Nightmare hasn't even been able to get past that checkpoint. So even if they're able to win this team fight, they're going to need to not only get that checkpoint during overtime probably, but then also push the Rainmaker past that during the overtime period. As Goss calls out Joe right there, able to take them down, able to throw up a couple of business onto the crab tank right there. That should slow down the special just a little bit. It creates some space on the side of Nightmare with the tri-strikes, but once again, Miner's going to get taken down. Kyo and Goss, the bucket duo, make sure that nobody can approach the Rainmaker. And 9, we have a set 3 as Crush Soda brings it back to win this Rainmaker set.
And a tip of the cap to you, Walkie. You called out that the double bucket composition was going to give the advantage in Game 3 if we got to Game 3 to Crush Soda, and it looked exactly like that. Your machine gets picks like these, can make attacks like these. You let your crabs be what defend your checkpoint from relatively safe positions, and you trust that you can eventually fight your way through here. An incredible set between two incredible teams. We got to throw this one back to the analysts, though. I know that they were talking. I know they were going crazy. Folks, let's pass it over to you.
And we were absolutely going crazy. You're right, Nine. That was a wild set. And Popkin, I would love to hear your thoughts about why you said to me a moment ago that almost should have been 4-0.
Yes, Nightmare had Crush Soda dead to rights in that second game, and they would have just 4-0'd them right there. That would have been insane if they got the result. The difference is experience right here. Crush Soda has more experience in these kind of situations. I can guarantee you they're extremely stressed and pissed off right now, but even in those kinds of tense moments, they still know how to find the right ways to play the entire 5 minutes and not just giving up in the last 30 seconds. It's a lot easier for Nightmare, who's a lot better on tower control, to know how to hang on to those ink strikes and those booyah bombs to close out those games when they have the big lead. Not so much easier to do in Raymaker now that we don't have Stingray to kind of bail you out in those situations. So Crush Soda's experience saved them in that set. It is why we're now going to a decisive set number 3.
And Brush, did you have a particular player that you saw make some very interesting plays throughout that set?
You know, Joe really stepped up from Nightmare in that first set, but out of nowhere, it seemed like Crush Soda was able to find ground again. I'm not so sure if that's because someone on Crush Soda really showed up or if Joe lost a little bit of that magic, but that really first set, I mean, that's all we were talking about in our little booth there, is just how well Joe was able to find the sharks, find the plays, and hold the space down for Nightmare. Something changed. Something gave Crush Soda. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a really interesting next set we're going into. And what do you think is going to be going on with this Clamblitz set, Popgun?
I think Crush Soda has woken up now. I think they've got themselves back into control of the narrative of this set. That doesn't mean Nightmare is going to go down quietly into the night. They are going to continue to haunt Crush Soda over the course of this set. The problem is, though, can they still believe that they can close this one out? Being that close, a few seconds away from 4-0ing Crush Soda, that would have been one of the biggest upsets of all of Splatoon. I mean, prisoner of the moment, it's hard to think, but that would have been it. That slipped away. Can they dig deep? Do they have the Splatoon maturity to try to find a way to get themselves back into control of this set? Now in there where it seems like Crush Soda has finally settled down and have regained control of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Brush, do you think we're going to see yet another weapon coming out of Joe here?
I don't know. We were keeping count where we were. We saw 4 new weapons in 4 matches, and finally on that 5th game, Joe went back to the 52 gal. So I don't know. I feel like we've touched on all of Joe's weapon pool here. I wouldn't be surprised if we get back to some Wiper or some other gameplay.
And so we are going to be getting into this last decisive set, going back to our casters.
And thank you to our analysts for their wonderful words there. They are just as excited to watch what weapons Joe is going to be picking as we are, and especially as we move now into Clamblitz. So, Walkie, if you'll permit me here to kind of peel back the curtain again at the statistics of what these teams would play, where they were strongest. We know and have noted to you all at home before that Crush Soda not the greatest on splat zones here. So we always wonder, how does a Splat Zones team end up playing a Clamblitz mode? Well, oftentimes it comes down to, again, the sustainability of holding the right positions here, getting the points that you can, and how you stack up for the push ahead of time. It's a delicate dance, but what I saw in that last set is that Crush Soda figured out how to fight again as a team. And that, I know, is such a generalized statement here, but there were multiple times in that first game where Kyo would go for a dive, that first set rather, where Kyo would go for a dive and there would be no follow-up, not even a burst bomb, Walkie. But then in that second set, Kyo took a dive, Wave swung around, Wave cleared somebody out, Joe maybe came in and tried to attack from another side, maybe Storm was there too, but then Thunder would come in as well. They figured it out and hit their stride once again on the fighting side. And as we take a look here at our maps for Clamblitz, that transfers over to every mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it right there. There was a difference in the coordination that Crush Soda was bringing out in that last set right there. Yeah, it took a little bit of an adjustment during game one with Goss coming back into the lineup, but once they realized, you know, Goss came in, he said, this is my role. I'm going to stick with it. Keo, go do your thing. I'll come with you. Things started to work out well for them right there. So I'm very excited to see if they're able to maintain that going forward into this next one. Or on the other side for Nightmare, are they frazzled? They were one game away, 9, from committing a 4-0 against a team that every caster thought that they would lose against. But now we're going to see what Nightmare and Crush Soda are both made of as we go on to set number 3, game 1, Clam Museum.
Finally, Kyo has brought it out. The big sword is here to go and make some dives and some attacks. Goss going to be sticking with the bucket, and it's going to be Wave and Thunder going over to the Splash. And on the other side, this is the tried and true comp. And for my money, this is the best comp that Nightmare can come out. As much as I love seeing other weapons come out from Joe here, I truly believe his 52 is a cut above. We're going to see the same type of opening as it was last time. Thunder opens the same way. It's going to be Joe and a Crab attacking Thunder at this side. They're not giving up nearly as much space, and look at that. Joe even moved over and attacked the person who was coming to assist with that. Now they're back on the adaptation side. They outplayed them in that initial opening. They learned from the last time they were on Museum.
Yeah, it seemed like Crush Soda was not able to capitalize off of that first grab tank. Thunder comes in with the second. Nobody able to really put up any follow-up damage, and that was 2 wasted specials right there. Kudos to Nightmare for really responding, and then responding even more right here as Miner's able to take down Keo, make sure nobody comes through with the flank, and they've already got the first score on the board. 3 members down on the side of Crush Soda, and they've already pushed this one down to 44 here, 9.
I mean, it's stunning. Again, these players from Nightmare just do not die. I don't know if they've spawned in with ink armor or what it is, but there were 2 or 3 situations where a couple members of Crush Soda would be firing at one player, and the member from Nightmare would get away, and that meant that they kept their clams. That meant that they kept a little presence there, and that really adds up in Clam Blitz. Again, if you go down there in Rainmaker, if you go down in tower control, whatever, you're fighting ahead of it, but you can score lots of points simply by staying alive a little bit longer on this mode. Now Joe is back here guarding the main point of entry on this side. One player does go down here, so that could be big, but until they clear out Joe, you have to imagine this defense is going to be solid. With Joe going down though, here we go, Walkie. Can they hang on? Are they frazzled?
Yeah, Goss able to take that one. Thunder into the score, and they do. They still have 10 clams at the ready. Make that 5 as one of their players does go down right there before they're able to put any in. Keo able to pick up the kill onto Swarm right there, but actually nobody in position to score. That's going to be this one power clam in right there. Keo in a pretty bad position. You got to wonder what was taking Keo so long to kind of jump out right there. Maybe thought his team would be able to come and back him up, but nobody there to make it in time.
No, but I'm starting to see a little bit of the wisdom because so many people were fighting there. That map off of 3 down walking is still totally orange. They weren't able to get back into middle at all. They did not want to feed to Kyo, and because of that, they're going to have a Crab directly in their face here. They've got to stabilize immediately on this side. Another member is moving up and attacking, and throughout all of this, they found a way through. Who else would be behind you in that spot? It's Joe who works through once again. The old I'll fight my way out, and that's going to be my defense strategy pays off. Now Joe Sharks on this side still hungry for more.
Yeah, you got to wonder, players like Crush Soda, they got to know that Joe's going to be coming in from behind at some point during your push. They weren't able to call it out there in time. Joe able to take advantage. But once again, 9, nobody on the side of Nightmare has really been able to secure the middle of the map for their team so far. And that's just going to be Crush Soda on the offense. And once again, already broke the checkpoint or the goal right there. Just 1 clam away, actually a couple clams away, my bad, I thought that was 47, but a couple clams away from pushing this one further, and nobody's actually in position to score it right there. They had 4 clams at the ready, but the player with them just wasn't near the goal.
No, again, maybe a small misstep there, but I want to hark on something you said earlier there where Nightmare doesn't have anybody who's made a play back towards the middle of the map. So often when these teams crumble against these top-level teams, it's because they get passive. They sit back and try to defend as long as they can, and they give too many opportunities to these other teams. it's been maybe a solid minute of gameplay since Nightmare got into the middle of the map, and now Miner needs to be careful not to overextend here. They finally have a path to attack, and they're gonna have more than enough resources to take this lead back, but they're only gonna have a minute to do it. Goss is still behind them, and they two close out on Goss, and they do it relatively quickly, so no harm, no foul. But again, I hope they didn't sit back too long and try to defend.
Yeah, they did end up losing a power clam thanks to Goss's heroic antics in their spawn right there. Goss actually elects to jump down right away. Everybody on Nightmare should know that they're there, but no! Goss is going to be able to take down one before they go down. That's two down on the side of Nightmare right here. Storm selected to back up as they know the crab sink from Thunder in mid is going to force them all the way back. They don't want to lose that power clam as they're going to need 2 power clams to take this lead.
Yeah, that is the nice thing here. You only need 2 power clams, and that does it. So now all kinds of jump shenanigans to the basket do become available to you, but they have a long way to go even to do that. And frankly, I'm a little surprised that Crush Soda is even holding on to these power clams here, giving away their position. Joe is going to go down there, and Joe is going to go down, so the 2 O's have been traded off the map. Another player goes down here. It's just Pelu, and they know the approximate position of Pelu. Miner is going to move forward here, but that is not a position that you want to be in when it's your only position. But hold on, some other people fought through and were able to take out a couple members. They are calling, desperately praying for the jump, and they will run out of time. A little scary there at the end, but Walkie, I think Nightmare got a little too defense happy there. They set back, they got passive. The one thing that we say, whatever you're playing is good or bad, at least make it quick, at least make it active. And whether it's the respect that they're giving the members of Crush Soda, whether it's they really feel that 3 players are necessary to take out Kyo, there was a solid 2 or so minutes in the middle of that game where they did not get back to mid, and Crush Soda made them pay dearly.
Yeah, and you saw right there, you had to jump in from wave to secure that, but Kyo was putting so much pressure with that Zipcaster up in their face on that top left of the goal right there that everybody was kind of forced to look at them. They didn't even see somebody was in position to allow the jump in, and from there, it just seemed like a scramble on the side of Nightmare. They didn't know where to focus their attention, and then once they thought that they finally cleared out their base, somehow Goss was still there, able to make a couple trades happen, and things slowed down for the Nightmare once again. They just weren't able, as you said, to make a quick push in the other direction because they were never able to get a full wipe or at least make sure that their own base was clear.
And now everything that we said about did they let it slip away here, folks. Prisoner of the moment, sensationalized, however you want to phrase it. The fact remains that Nightmare had the lead in the second game of the Rainmaker set. All they had to do was melt another minute or so off the clock, and they would have 4-0'd Crush Soda. Now, it is them, the young, scrappy freshmen, as Pop Gun called them, fighting for their tournament life here. Their last stand now they will have to make on Inkblot Art Academy Clam Blitz. This is a very, very tricky map here, Walkie. I don't have stats to back this up, but I feel like when things get bad on this map, it feels hopeless to fight your way back through, whether it's because the players are so good at understanding where you can come back to mid from, where you can get out of your base from, or whether it's simply because of how quickly you can grab clams from the mid and then get more points off of the board here. But they're going to have to find their composure immediately.
Yeah, we're going into game number 2 of this Clam Blitz set, and as you mentioned, things can snowball pretty quickly if you let players like Kyo and Goss get up onto your plat and do whatever they want to do. The double machine comp is going to be coming out from those two, and on the other side, not too much change on the side of Nightmare, but Joe is going to be electing to bring out that vanilla Tri-Slosher to use that inkjet and put himself onto those higher elevations once they're in the spawn of Crush Soda. Let's see if it's going to be effective.
Yeah, it could be a nice way to continue to get some more sustainability via simply killing the opponent. My favorite kind of sustainability, frankly, as we now again see the same type of opening that we have seen all the time. And look at this, the members of Crush Soda firing at absolutely nothing here, saying, wait a minute, there wasn't a second person sharking here. What team are we playing against now? And look at this, already Nightmare back on their side. They're simply having to use their defensive specials to keep their flat. They don't have any resources. Finally, one goes out to fight. It's Joe, who does force the trade. But right now, the only thing protecting Nightmare is the fact that Crush Soda hasn't built any clams.
Yeah, Kyo, the one who elects to go back, surprisingly, and get those clams for the team. That's got to be a moment where the experienced guy is like, guys, we need to just get the clams. Hurry up, somebody do it. And just be like, oh, now I got to go and do it myself. That's going to cost Keo his life, though. They do have a power clam at the ready now. Wave's going to be forced back a little bit by the tri-strikes, but still, on the side of Nightmares, they don't have any control towards mid. It's still completely in Crush Soda's favor as Keo and the rest of the team kind of moves on forward. One goes down, but they do elect to use a couple of specials to move their way forward right here. Kind of pushed back, though. Not the most coordinated effort coming in from Crush Soda. You gotta imagine if they had the clams early, they would have been able to make something happen.
Yeah, absolutely here. If you're Crush Soda, you're probably kicking yourself there that you've been winning the first 90 seconds of this game pretty handily and have absolutely no points to show for it. And for Nightmare, you're saying, woo, well, all right, they gave us one gang. Let's just make them pay for it here. Now is the interesting piece of this that we haven't gotten to see. The way that this comp has been attacking, Joe's not going to have a great way to sneak in. He's going to have to do it the honest way. You see, trying to take a far off angle here, does have wave marked. Will they move forward here? Everyone moving and trying to find, does get one here. Gossin has a nice smoke screen as well to move, but it appears that the other members did a good enough job, and Thunder was over there to clear it on out, potentially the MVP of this set. We're just saying the name all over. And finally, after over 2 minutes, we will see the first points come off the board. And this has really just been a counterpunch off of what was a pretty good look for Nightmare walking.
Yeah, they 2 specials coming in on the side of Crush Soda. That's got to give them enough time to allow Thunder to get some clams back and mid, get themselves back into this one. But actually, 2 members now on the side of Crush Soda are going to go down. Should be the end of this push. Joe kind of forced back by Keo right there. Now they get the double, triple people onto Keo right there to make sure that they finished him off before he's able to, put any shenanigans like Goss was able to in that last match. Nightmare now has stabilized. Are they going to be able to get the picks, get the clams, and get themselves onto the plat of Crush Soda now is the question when they have to deal with these specials coming out like the grab sex on the side of Crush Soda.
And there's your answer right there, Walkie. Already 2 of them down here. Storm not going to be able to assist the team at all because he was stuck inside of the triple ink strike there. And again, more and more points coming here off the board. Well, finally a point actually comes off the board here, but it's the same as last time when Nightmare has to find a way to push through. They use a couple specials, and then they go down as a result. All of these points are again coming off of when Nightmare had mid. Finally, they are able to get a clean wipeout, and they should have an opportunity to set up an attack. This might be their only really good chance, and already one of them goes down. You talk about sustainability. That's 2 down. They're all firing at Miner. Miner's going to go down there. Pelu goes down. Walkie, that was so much to give up for simply 26 points.
Yeah, and not only did they give up everything in terms of their player numbers, they never even painted the middle of the map, so things are completely looking great for Crush Soda to bring this one back on the other end, as they already have 21 clams basically coming out of their last team fight right here. One goes down on both teams right there, maybe slow things down on the side of Crush Soda, but actually a second member goes down. Booyah Bombs coming out from Keo right here. Hopefully a member on the side of Crush Soda is able to take advantage of that space that Keo created right there and move themselves forward once again. But so far, Nightmare's kind of responding, but no, everything's just falling apart for their team right now. Multiple members down. Pelu, the last one remaining. They called that one out. Keo just elects to bring it back for some reason. I guess they don't want to give them a free power clam. Realizes that the game is kind of in their favor, and it's an interesting decision. May work out for them in the end.
Yeah, nice touch there again. You don't want to give them any more resources. You've had mid the entire game. They have not been able to build up any clams here. Why give them any more resources than you need to as we enter the last 20 seconds? Nightmare needs to do something they have not done this entire game, which is find a way to break through a defense. And with Kyo taking Miner out there, Joe sharking, they know where Joe is at, firing there, too much chip damage. Joe goes down. We will enter the overtime period, but it's just a formality at this point. A wipeout goes through. Goss sets the controller down. They're booyahing. They're bagging. Thunder swimming up ahead. And for just a few more seconds, folks, we will get to see the incredible resilience and
they might wipe him again
from Crush Soda. 2 wipeouts in 1 overtime, and Crush Soda brings it all the way back. Again, losing with just 30 or so seconds left. That close, Walkie, to losing the entire set, to bringing it back and looking utterly dominant there in this final set. A tip of the cap to you, Nightmare, but Crush Soda showed their class and had a little fun at the end.
If you ever question the veteran experience that Keo has, you shouldn't. Somehow he knew Goss was the one we were following, and he decides to go on Goss's camera and squid bag for everyone to see on stream. Talk about a more experienced player than Keo right there. As man, this guy's just amazing for the team. Overall, Crush Soda put on a fantastic showing for all of us to see, bringing it all the way back. There were some bumps along the road, but once they got their main lineup in there, it felt like smooth sailing for the most part.
Yeah, incredible resilience there from Crush Soda. I suppose if we learned one thing tonight, it's that most teams are probably not going to counterpick Nightmare to tower control anymore. I think they've certainly at least made their case on that mode, but I mean, folks, if you ever needed an example here of when push comes to shove, can you remain composed? Can you close the deal? That's what it looks like. The small mistakes in some of the Rainmaker games, and once it goes against you, you just don't have an answer. Nightmare really couldn't even push past mid in that Inkblot game. It was a rough time, a rough sledding, and Walkie, we got to send it back to the casters here to break down one of the best sets that the InkTV Resurgence League has seen.
Yeah, and what a thrilling set it was. Always really fun to see close games and games with the potential for a big upset. Popgun, what do you think really changed about Crush Soda in that last set?
I think Goss coming back plays a huge role into that one. And that's not to say Zero's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, but Goss allows them to do the play style that they've been prepping for this entire time that they've been a team. When Goss comes back in, they went 4-1. And yes, I feel like tower control is just really strong for Nightmare, but still, you got to go back and think. Nightmare almost 4-0'd Crush Soda. They were really close to doing it into that game 4 at Rainmaker at the museum. The difference is they just got top playered. And I've heard that term a lot in Smash Brothers. And what it means right here is just the experience plays a huge role when things come down to crunch time. Nightmare, knowing they're so close to victory, tightened up a little bit. Whereas Crush Soda said, okay, we know how to get these wins in these clutch moments. We know how to play the entire 5 minutes. And they're able to close out the set. Once they won that first game, Rainmaker at the museum, they dominated the set from there on out. Never looked back.
Yeah, they really did. It definitely was just that shift in momentum. And Brush, what do you think really caused that during that museum game?
Yeah, you know, we talked about it in the context of Starburst earlier, this idea of a chip on your shoulder. You have something to prove when you're playing Starburst. When you end up down that first set with a roster that isn't yours, you have something to prove again. When you're Kyo and you're coming in here and you're Crush Soda and you had such a showing at PAX, you feel good. You feel like you're the top of the hill. Yeah, you got Starburst up ahead, but you feel good. Your opponents had something to prove, but when you go down that set, that switches. You have something to prove. Popgun, you said they tightened up. You said Nightmare tightened up. Crush Soda had a chip on their shoulder. They had to show up. They had to be the ones to play the game at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crush Soda did an excellent job at that. And it seems that they went back to a comp that they are very comfortable with, of that double machine, double splash. Do either of you have any thoughts on that? Popgun?
Oh, not necessarily. No. I mean, look, when push comes to shove, you got to use the comp that you feel the most comfortable with. And we talked about Nightmare having the difference of comps that they were using. Joe using, I believe, 5 different weapons at some point over the course of this set, going from Wiper to Gal to the Tri-Slosher that they used at the beginning and at the end right there. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you push Crush Soda into a corner and they have to find a way to win, they go back to the comps that they know is absolutely going to get them to win. Again, experience is playing a little bit of a role right there. I do want to point out, though, I said I feel like this is a win for both teams. I feel like Nightmare, you get 4-0'd by Jackpot last week, and now you come out here and you almost get the win against Crush Soda. They can't say they win. They can put in their Sindao bios, 3-5 Crush Soda, and maybe they'll get them a few more votes. But the fact that they were able to come out and make a name for themselves in this league is exactly what they wanted out of this tournament, and they did that today. Are they going to be haunted by that game for the second game of the Rainmaker set museum. Yes, that's going to eat away at them for a long time. But they made their case to being a part of this club that they found themselves in all of a sudden.
Yeah, they definitely did. They definitely made a great showing. And honestly, the closest we've seen to a significant upset so far in this league. And of course, we have plenty more opportunities for that. Bresh, what do you think we could expect to see out of Nightmare potentially in the future?
Look, I mean, there was a minute there where I'm sure Crush Soda thought their nightmare would never end. They woke up. They found a way through. Nightmare is going to sit down next week. They're going to keep playing. They're going to keep grinding. And they're going to find, the extra one play, the extra one game, the extra one moment that wins them the set. Who knows? When we keep going here in high-level gameplay, high-level Splatoon, we're going to see some more Nightmare upsets against teams like Crush Soda.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, it was a really exciting set. What do you think what do you think is going on through each team's mind right now, Popgun?
If you're Crush Soda, I don't know why you're squid bagging at the end of that one. That didn't feel like a comfortable win to like, oh yeah, we really got these guys here. I feel like they're just happy to escape and get through that one. Because both teams were in playoff contention tonight. If Crush Soda were to lose that one, well, then they automatically have to find a way to beat Jackpot, which, by the way, Jackpot just dismissed Nightmare. So that set coming up next week looks a little bit more critical for Crush Soda than it did just a few hours ago. But again, for Nightmare, yes, you are eliminated from the playoffs, but you got what you wanted out of this. You asked the question to Brush, what does Nightmare do going forward? I wonder if Crush Soda didn't truly respect Nightmare until they had absolutely no choice but to respect Nightmare. So for everybody at the top level, this puts Nightmare on alert. You can't just look down on them because they're the new kid on the block. But for Nightmare going forward, they have to do the same thing to their opponents. They can't start getting we've arrived, because they haven't fully arrived just yet. And now everybody that's below them, all the other teams they played in Div 1 the last season, all they've done so far against those teams is to put a giant target on their back. And everybody is going to be gunning for them. And like I said earlier in the broadcast, Starburst gets the best version of every team they play against. Nightmare's going to experience that from everybody below them now going forward. So Nightmare, welcome to the club. Start acting like it, and you're going to stick around.
And Brush, do you think that last map might have favored one of the teams in any way? Obviously not by design, but do you think it maybe favored one of the comps that one of the teams that's running slightly more?
Look, I mean, typically I would sit here and give you a great example and point to your Mako marks and say the slosher is always going to win. There comes a point, though, and I know Popgun, we like to talk about this all the time, you just have to play Splatoon. At some point, looking at every little teeny tiny corner and hill stops being so important. And so while we had players like Joe picking weapons for the map mode and trying to flex around, at some point you're in the game, the timer is counted down, and you just have to go. It's really hard to sit here and say that mindset or the greater, what they ate for dinner that night had any more of a play, to me, at least than the map mode that we ended up there.
Yeah, it definitely can seem that way a lot of the time. I definitely think that Machine is very, very strong on Inkblot, and it was smart of Crush Soda to run two of them there. And I will say, we did see some incredible plays out of Joe throughout all of those games. And Popgun, do you have any comparisons that you'd maybe want to pull there between like what Joe and Kyo have done over time?
No, because they shouldn't be compared together. Joe is just now starting to arrive, as is the rest of Nightmare. Kyo's been here since as long as all the idiots in chat can remember. So it's not fair to compare the two. And again, the difference we saw today, and I'm really interested to looking at the stats because it seemed like Kyo died a lot. But again, we talked about this going into the set. All it takes is just one good play out of Kyo to spark everything for this team. Crush Soda as a whole played really well. The whole of Nightmare played really well as well. We focus on one player, and we tend to do that a lot in commentary and analysis. And Joe definitely deserves this kind of highlight. But the rest of Nightmare starts to play around the great plays that Joe makes as well. Another thing to point out, Nightmare used 5 players on their roster last week. Storm only played once. This time around, they used the same 4 players the entire time through. You can't tell me that didn't make a difference in why they were more consistent this time around.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Storm doing a great job just really utilizing those trip strikes, everybody moving up so well off of those specials on Nightmare. And we are going to be able to switch over to our casters again now and get an interview started. So thank you so much for joining us so far tonight.
All right, thank you everybody. We got a nice little interview here with Thunder here of the winning team, and just first of all, congratulations on your victory. How are you feeling? Well, then let's talk about something that might have you a little bit more excited here, which is Crab Tank, because my question that I have for you specifically, yeah, I know that excited about Crab Tank, but I want to talk a little bit about that undertow spillway game, because that was where I felt like you all kind of, whether it was you woke up or you found your groove or whatever it is, you adapted. Any of these things, talk a little bit, because there was one moment I know where you kind of made like a one-man defense, but what was it on the undertow spillway game that you all kind of figured out in terms of keeping pace with them, outpacing with them? What was it?
So my main issue was I underestimated too much, way too long. I kept fighting way too much. I wasn't playing correctly. So I just put on Ninja Squid and just started playing a lot safer and using my head more.
Yeah.
I did really good, definitely. I used my crabs, I didn't die. I think my KD was 21-4. I definitely did better.
Oh, sorry, that's not good. I didn't realize 21-4 was the cutoff we were going for. But one thing I want to ask you, Thunder, is it seemed like during that Clam Blitz game, there was a point where you guys started on Inkblot Art Academy where you guys were dominating them for the first minute of the game, but nobody on the team was collecting clams. What was the VC like there? Because I gotta imagine you guys were yelling at each other to get those clams.
Here's what happened. They were all 3 using crab and fighting. I'm we need clams, stop pushing up, back up, we need clams. And then no one was getting clams, and I'm oh, come on. I was back up, but then they just kept killing them, and I was you know what? And I'll let them do their thing.
Yeah, we joked, we were oh wow, Kyo went back up to build a power clam. Something's gone horribly wrong if Kyo of all people is going back to build the power clam. But take us a little bit through, again, I would say both of the Clam Blitz games, but in particular the Clam Blitz game on Museum d'Alfonsino, because there was a period where it seemed like you all held mid for ever. It was maybe about 2 minutes of actual gameplay. It may as well have been the whole game from our perspective here. Was that you picking up on where they were coming in to attack from? Was it you not getting caught by sharks at any point? What was it, again, as you kind of hit your stride in that museum game that started to come through?
We lost the Rainmaker set due to solely sharks, and we weren't getting sharked. We stopped getting sharked at all that game. And every time someone tried to flank, we just killed them. And it was a stressful 2-minute defense, or however long that defense was. It felt forever. Because we knew if they broke through once, it was over.
Yeah. Like you mentioned there was a little bit of struggles during that earlier set. So what I wanted to ask you, Thunder, was what was the adjustment like for the team, going off of obviously Goss getting back in the lineup after set 1? Did it take a little bit of time to get used to, we just played one style with Zero, now we have to go play another style with Goss, and how did that factor into your performance today?
Kind of the opposite. When we played with Zero, we were all confused, didn't really know what to do. Kyo had his issues with his PC, and it was really just dragging moods down. But then, Gosh joined, we started getting back in our happiness stuff again, and we just came back. We just had to wake up.
Well, I will ask you the first question again here, because I guess the chat didn't hear the answer and they wanted to know how you felt. So I'll ask you again here just to make sure, and so you can tell everybody how incredibly excited you were. How did you feel about that set, Thunder?
I'm happy now because it's over and we won and we can look to the next one. It's good we didn't lose, because that would have been bad. I can't be happy, yeah.
No, that's great stuff. Like, and we're hamming it up a little bit here, but like, Iwaki and I were noting during the cast as well, the first few games really did look like the Crush Soda that we're used to see. We waxed poetic about, you know, how stable you all had been, how well you'd kind of painted around, how the splash, whatever Kyo was playing at the time in the machine, was working well for you all. So it was great to see you all hit your stride midway through and, you know, kind of take care of business on the back end.
Yeah, one thing just before we head out onto, you know, next week is, what are your opinions on your match against Jackpot next week? It's going to be, you know, both of you have qualified for the playoffs, but I mean, this is for seeding now at this point between you two. You didn't have the best showing here today, but, you know, are you guys confident in your next match against Jackpot, who hasn't lost a beat at all?
Well, the entirety of this week, we had like no practice, no team practice at all. So like, it was definitely, if we just start practicing, then I'm confident that we can win. We can beat them. Yeah.
All right, well, folks, I mean, you heard it right there. Thunder feeling confident if they can play, if Kyo can get his computer issues fixed off. He tweeted frame 1 here, folks. Kyo never misses the opportunity to tweet right after a set here, so go and interact with that. I'm sure his stream will approve of it. But Thunder, thank you for joining us here. Congratulations on the victory that you did get. We are very excited for your set against Jackpot later on. Waki, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think these guys on Crush Soda are learning every week, getting better and better every week. And I think that really showed today with, you know, a couple of you are less experienced than Kyo, but I think you guys are matching his tempo and playing well as a team. So, Thunder, thanks for joining us, man. Really appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
And on that note, we'll send it right back over to the calendars here.
And we are back. What an incredible interview there from Thunder. Really interesting to hear what was going through Crush Soda's mind as we were going through that. Popgun, do you have any thoughts on it?
It sounds like they were able to just survive and advance onto the next round, guaranteeing themselves in playoffs, setting up a interesting match against Jackpot next week. Jackpot seems to be coming into that match with a little bit more momentum, maybe a little bit more less stress coming behind them into that set. But again, just get past the nightmare, you wake up from it, and you move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually do now know who is going to be in playoffs. Next week is just going to be focused on seeding. So we have Starburst, Crush Soda, Alliance Rogue, and Jackpot. Brush, what are you thinking about all that?
Look, I mean, we've said it a couple times already now. It's not for the qualifier, it's for that seeding spot, but that doesn't make it any less important. This is your first time measuring up in this format, in a set play environment with this very limited map pool. So seeing how you measure up 1-to-1 against your opponent, if you're Crush Soda, seeing how you play against Jackpot when you haven't had an opportunity and when you've had such a rough night tonight, that's going to be very hard on their mental. It's going to be very fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to all of our production staff tonight, our wonderful casters, Nine and Waki. I have been Nox. Where can they find you two?
Popgun, you first. Take it away.
You can find me at my kid's baby shower tomorrow. And that's otherwise you can find me on Twitter, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can find me on Twitter also or something. I don't know.
Thanks again to everyone. Thank you so much to Elemental for doing all the spec cam stuff tonight. Thank you so much to Spoon for organizing all of this. And we will see you all again next Thursday at 7 p.m. EST.